ladies and gentlemen. Today I am here with SilentShadows, the admin of the Phoenix Smite League, which is a new amateur league for players to participate in North America. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing well?
Well, I saw your guys' league just the other day, and I was very, very curious as to what it was all about. So here we are, and I'd just like to ask you guys a couple questions. So the first thing I'd like to know is, who are you? Tell me more about you, and what is the Phoenix Smite League?
Who am I as a person, or who are we, the Phoenix Smite League?
Who are you as the admins, I guess?
All right. Well, we do have a silent owner. So Turk is our silent owner. He's the owner of Iniquity Gaming, and he basically it's his job to basically kind of sit there and do nothing and look really sexy and fancy himself and hang out while he doesn't really make any decisions. But we do have a technical owner, which allows us to deal with sponsors in a more legal and official way. And then there's drfeelsogood. He's the commissioner of the league. He oversees all the disciplinary decisions, everything that goes on with the league. Then there's me. I'm the lead administrator. And then we have three admins at the moment: E-Man, F-Man, Miraz, and Victorian. Seven, and they all help us do different disciplinary actions, run the league, run tournaments, get games set up, all that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's a lot of people, to be behind what seems like from face value. It doesn't seem like anything more than the Smite Central. And I know Smite Central structure, maybe, and I could be wrong about this, admittedly, but I don't know. I think it's bigger than Smite Central's team on this. I think that's a little bit funny. And I'm not going to compare
Well,
you guys too much. I just, wanted to
yeah,
point
I
that out.
think if there's anything that differentiates us from Smite Central is that Smite Central runs on a tournament basis, whereas we're running a league. So the leagues is a 6 week long split with 5 weeks of regular play and then playoffs and relegations. There are four divisions: the Premier, the Champions, Challenger, and Elite division, with 6, 6, 12, 12 teams respectively. If we get all the teams to fill, especially that last division. And so the games we played on Monday, Tuesdays, and then Friday, Saturdays of every single week. Teams have 48 hours to schedule their games in and get stuff done. So the real thing that differentiates us is that we're not doing just simple. How would you say? We're not just running tournaments. We're doing a league where teams can stay here, practice, find scrims, play throughout the week, and give teams a place to grow and improve, rather than just kind of, oh, here's a tournament and we give you guys some gems.
I like it. That's actually goes into one of my later questions I had, was what your guys' mission was. But I do. Well, actually, that does answer a lot. I like that answer because it covers a lot of things that I wanted to go over.
Well, good, good. I like to be concise.
Yeah. So as far as the overall mission, then, if I'm understanding you guys correctly, you are setting out to be a sort of third tier league to allow people to prop themselves up into high res sponsored competition. Am I understanding that right?
I mean, kind of. I would say there's not really a second tier league. I mean, if you consider, I think I saw you talking about it a bit in Twitch chat before, but like there's clearly a first tier league, which is the Smite Pro League, EU and NA and Oceanic and LATAM, et cetera, et cetera. I wouldn't really even consider the what is it, the Challenger Cup League, or this has four
Circuit.
teams in it. The teams are coming up now through the combine. That's kind of replaced Challenger Cup games and tournaments that used to be happening back in season 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't even really consider that more of a league because it's really just four teams playing each other and trying to fight for relegations and whatnot and promotions up to the SPL. I mean, this is really a league. We have 22 teams that were in part of the tournament, qualifying tournament that just happened this weekend. We expect to see probably close to around 30 teams from what we can tell just at the very start. So this is something that we think is more really like a second tier league that Smite doesn't have right now.
All right. So I see where you're coming from. I do have to comment though that you guys did say in the rules that you excluded circuit teams from being able to participate in this event. So clearly your target are people who are working through the gauntlet and maybe aren't getting enough out of the Smite Central series tournaments or the Eager Friday Night Smite tournaments. Because as a
For sure. For sure. I mean, the reason why we're just not allowing those teams is that we um, we feel like they're in a part of Hi-Rez's sponsored tournaments that's in a way to get through the SPL, and are kind of really easily decision to make from both Dr. Feelsogood and I was like, yeah, we're not going to have pro players in here. So I mean, this is an amateur league for amateur teams, including some of the really high level Challenger Cup teams that we would love to get in here as well, and we do already have a couple.
Yeah, I've noticed that while there are a couple people I recognize from primarily community tournaments, actually, most of the people here I've never seen before, or if I have seen them, it's like seeing their name on a leaderboard and ranked. So in a way, it's like for the people who I even recognize from the leaderboards, it's putting a name to a face, you know. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, I think it's funny because you're with the challenger circuit at this point. There are a lot of people there who we recognize, even if we don't pay that much attention to them. As Smite fans, as viewers.
Definitely.
So that is cool. But yeah, it would be pretty boring, if this was another AVGL like tournament where people just kind of came in from the challenger circuit and just smoked everybody because they could.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about as well. The problem with AVGL, and we do have JMatt casting for us from AVGL as well for some of these games, is that, and I played in it season 2 just kind of for fun, is that there's really 2 to 4 teams that are made up of Challenger Cup teams, and then there's just really everybody else that's just looking to have some fun and play some games. And the disparity is really insane from those top 4 or so teams to the rest. And so you don't really get very many close games and really exciting games. And even here in our losers bracket semifinals, we went to a full best of 3, and each of the games went over 30 minutes. So I think we have a lot of really good competition for these teams to play against each other. And for the most part, especially in our middle division, I think these teams are pretty close skill-wise.
Yeah, I have to agree. I definitely have to agree that, when you compare the AVGL and circuit tournaments that we've had in the past, while I like them and I think what people are doing is they're doing a great job, working on those, I just think that they're circumstantially very hard to make them work in the same sense that you guys are clearly trying to make the Phoenix Smite League work. Especially as a player, I used to play community tournaments in Season 3. One of the hardest things was finding scrim time or regular times where we could say, we're going to play at this time, and we're going to stick to it. That was like the hardest thing, especially as a lower end team, Everybody's like, oh, well, you guys aren't going to win anything. And it's like, but I want to do it anyway, right? So I think for a lot of those teams too, you're probably providing a lot more structure. And it's like, I was thinking today when I was talking to you guys in chat, earlier we were talking about this, it was like, I was just thinking to myself, dang, I wish this was around when I was playing competitive, because I wasn't even that
Yeah, of course I'm adminning it so I can't play, but back when I was playing mainly in season 2 and early season 3, I would have loved for something like this to be around. And we hope it really does push a lot of these teams that have been playing community tournaments on the small end, scrimming a bunch in the background, to the forefront and really try to grow the Smite amateur community and improve and show the SPL teams that there's a lot more rookies than just in Masters solo queue ranked that you can pick up from some of these teams.
That's another interesting angle, is that this is exposure potentially for lower end players to climb their way up into, top combine teams where they can reform, or even to circuit teams that need to fill slots. That is very interesting. And that's kind of an interesting way of putting it, where they can basically feed up from these leagues into higher end teams, basically, and try to get their shot at the SPL ultimately if they put in the work.
Yeah, that's really kind of what we're looking to do, is really grow the scene. Of course, I think the biggest thing that this league provides right now is a guaranteed, you get guaranteed essentially scrims. You get 4 scrims a week, 4 games in a week, but also it kind of guarantees a grouping that you already have for scrims. So you don't have to kind of look randomly LFM, looking for scrims from Smite Central games, the kind of players you don't know, but you're in a Discord with another 24 teams and probably 6 to 10 teams that are probably going to be about your level that's worth your time to scrim. And so it's a little bit easier to find scrims from that direction, and a little bit easier to kind of form relationships with captains, because I know, as someone who used to manage a team and work on trying to find scrims all the time, that the best way to get scrims is to have a relationship with the people that you're trying to get scrims with.
I've been there. I can relate to that completely. So there's another question that's particularly on my mind. Two things actually, but the biggest one is, so basically, how did you guys come about? Is the question.
How did we come about? There's a long story behind that, so I'll try to kind of simplify it down.
We got time.
Uh, there was a old league that was started up about, I want to say, 2.5, 3 months ago, and it had a little bit different leadership. I joined it as a kind of part-time caster a little bit. Ended up doing so much work in the league and helping out the admin so much, I became an admin myself. The league had numerous problems. I wasn't involved in the kind of development of it, just kind of the running of it once it got started. And when it eventually fell apart, Dr. Feelsogood and I particularly decided that we wanted to kind of run a league, but do it right and kind of use the vision that we wanted, which was really based off of the format of a European football or European soccer league that you have leagues and divisions that can move up and down, relegation, promotion, and that's kind of how this league came about.
That's pretty cool. I definitely like that idea of European football. And I know a lot of European people who might be listening might take offense to that and say, no, it's American football and just football. But that's another story for another day.
Is it soccer or is it football? I think our European fans over across the pond wouldn't be quite so pleased us calling it soccer.
Yeah, that's true. Well, at any rate, I do agree that, with the way that the European football leagues are set up, that whole relegation system is great, and I think it really rewards people for working hard. So it's interesting that you have multiple tiers, which was the next question I had. But before we get into that, I want to introduce Dr. Feelsogood. He is another one of the big wigs over at the Phoenix Smite League. So he's
big wigs, yes.
How are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. It's nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, I know. We've been corresponding a lot outside of this interview, so it's been a little bit mysterious until now, but it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was actually about to get onto a question here, and that is that I've noticed that the league is multi-tiered, and I may have asked you guys this a little bit before, but there are a lot of slots to fill, a lot of teams to manage, and it seems like a very ambitious project that reminds me of like minor league baseball. It's very elaborate. There are tons of slots, tons of different levels. How are you guys going to manage that and make it work?
You want to answer that one, Doc?
Sure. Well, I think part of I don't know how deep he went in with you on the birth of this, but did you go over where we came from the previous?
Yeah, just
league?
A little bit. Just kind of long story cut short.
Okay. So we came from a project that I was brought into a little bit late. Once it was kind of going, I was also playing in the league at the time. And so we did have like a bumps and bruise phase where we learned a lot. And we took the best parts from that. And then 2 and 3 of us, what we did is we went to work. I work in business and I also own a couple of companies. So I understand how structure is supposed to be. And I'm also ex-military. So I understand how chain of command works within structure. So what we did is me and Silent went and created pretty much the outline building for this Smite League. That's with the rules, the Discord rules, what we envision, how we could control, at least not control is the good word, but how we could facilitate, facilitate or manage this league without necessarily finger on the dot kind of thing. And what we did is you just chain of command it to where all the problems are solved at the lowest level. So once the divisions come out, there's going to be division leaders. These division leaders will be captains from the teams in that said division. There will only be 1 or 2 of them. They're to mitigate any of the issues within the division first. Then you go up to the next level, and then you go up to the next level, and then you go up to the next level. And finally, you'll get to a point where if it's critical, I may see it, Silent may see it, but there's really not that much. Not really. Most of the things that come down is scheduling. Let's just be honest. People just want to be able to make the times. And so we set up reports. Silent set those up, and we got a graph on when teams were most widely available. And then we set up the league around that. So there's a lot more that kind of goes into this than really the surface that a lot of people see. We do a lot of behind the scenes work on making sure that our goal is to make it the best possible league for the community, maybe not specifically to one team. And then that is kind of the spitball of success. There is make it available to the consumer, which is the players who are maybe a little bit lower than CC level and want to practice at a high level.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. That was a pretty concise answer there.
I have one question about that explanation, actually, and I'm a little bit curious because this is unique, and while I see the logic behind it, I want to know a little bit more about this, and that is about the division leaders themselves. These are captains from actual teams participating in their said level?
Correct.
Okay. Well, what kind of power would they be given, let's say? Because I know to viewers at home right now, that might be a little bit concerning, just to hear immediately.
Right. The authority of division leaders isn't really much. They're meant in a way to kind of be a buffer between the admins and the staff that work underneath us, kind of doing kind of behind the scenes work of working with documents and making sure teams are in order, et cetera, and the team captain. So the idea behind the division leaders is that if two captains within, let's say, the challenger division can't seem to get a game schedule and agree upon a time, they can first take it to a division leader who can try to mediate the problem and get something fixed before they try to push into, okay, seeing if an admin needs to take disciplinary action. As far as overall authority, the division leaders don't technically have any real solid authority. Only admins and above can make actual disciplinary actions and decisions regarding the rules and the implementation of the rules. And the reason why the admins have that authority is because none of the admins are affiliated or a part of any of the teams that are playing in the league.
So what you're telling me then is that that's your system in place to effectively prevent any sort of conflict of interest.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I like that a lot because that's, very common in a lot of company structure, which might be admittedly alien to a lot of our high school crowd here, that might be a concept that they are familiar with. But I do like how that works because in a way you're introducing younger kids, quite frankly, to some of these ideas that they'll come across later in life. And I do want to touch upon that because that's actually really, really ingenious. I'll use that word. I like that. It's pretty funny how that actually works itself out. So,
and Will, just to add something on to kind of like the thing too, is the admins are not like non-players either. I actually had done some stint with some of the kind of amateur / semi-pro stuff, and I still play on teams. I just don't play within the league, and we did it purely because that's something we learned from the past league, which is if you allow the people making the decisions to play, it even at a point of like just it feels like maybe they're not treating you fairly, even if they are. And one of the things, and I think the key components of all our documents when you come into the Discord, when you're a part of the league, it's about respect, it's about community, and ultimately it's about getting better. And we built it that way. You can't even come into this Discord unless you agree to the rules of the Discord, which is essentially just be kind, no racism, and be a professional. And that starts the practice at a young age, like you talk. But we don't allow the kind of like quote unquote trolling to go on. This is not ran by a bunch of guys in a shed. It's by people who really want to see the amateur scene get to the next level. And as you can see, like it used to be there was a lot of a difference between the top end and the lower end, but it's starting to get closer. And some of these teams will start to get better and hopefully be able to enter, if they want to, into the higher level.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, just taking a look at who's the admins and the owners, at least. Turk is part of a gaming organization and runs one. None of his teams will participate in the league. Doc has been playing in a lot of these semi-pro and lower level teams, lower level, I guess, if you compared to possibly like SPL teams. I have as well. Miraz has as well. Vic owns Victorian. Seven owns another gaming organization. So everyone really here, and Eman, of course, is a caster. So everyone really here on the admin team is really dedicated to seeing this work and seeing these teams put in a scenario where they can grow and improve. There's nothing really better to experience than watching a team kind of struggle at the beginning when they first form, and then watch them 2 months later beat a team that no one thought they could possibly beat because of how much they've improved by playing within the league.
Yeah, and the way I see that, and this is what I think what really drew me to you guys the most, was the fact that this is a sort of organization that's unprecedented at what is the lowest level of Smite competitive right now. And when you think about it, what I think is commendable is that when you have people practicing harder than they have before, it pushes everybody a little bit harder. And while we might not feel that for a little while, eventually that'll start to catch up. And as you said, maybe teams here that we see as an example in 2 months' time will start beating people that nobody expected them to beat. And also, just for everybody listening in on this, Turk is the silent owner of the Phoenix Smite League, as we said earlier, and he is the CEO of Iniquity Esports. So if you don't know who they are, go look them up. Anyway, so that touches upon a lot of my basic questions, actually. I had a lot of stuff written down here, but let me parlay that last point I just made about your silent owner, Turk, here, because I was going to ask who you're kind of affiliated with, and I guess I'm curious more about the business side of things, too, and you don't have to tell me, obviously, your financial reports, but I mean, in a nutshell, like, how's your business model, I guess? How do you guys expect to sustain yourselves,
Doc.
So there's two silent owners. Turk is one, I'm the other. And currently the system we have in place is we are giving anything that comes or is donated to the league in some way to the players. Now that is something that has to come, and I've spoken with several different affiliates of different people, and they all say the same thing. And what that is it has to succeed first, and then we'll talk. And this weekend was really big for us because for the most part, the qualification tournament with, we'll say, 50 to 75 players went relatively smooth. So it shows that we can do it. As that continues, a lot of these players, currently are asking, well, what do we get for winning? Currently, what you get for winning is the ability to continue to get better, to earn the ability to get something, whether that is from the next level or even from us in the future. Turk and I have no financial, monetary, gain investment in this. It's purely for the community, and part of the reason is some players who have come in kind of later into Smite don't remember what it was like when it was in beta. When we had green buff, when you had shield and all this other stuff, and Guan Yu was a guardian. And the other thing people don't remember is the community. That's really what this was about. A lot of people have asked me, what's the point of this? And honestly, I have met between 50 and 70 young men and ladies who are interested in Smite like I am. That was the original point. Now, since this is getting to the kind of the next level, I'm going to look at rewarding the teams and the players, for that investment of their time and just kind of that kind of motion. But that's going to come from an external source. And so I guess the business angle is we're not really making any money personally on it. And it'll be disseminated mostly to all the tournaments, end of the year kind of season, that type of thing, and more info to come on that.
Yeah, if we just add as well, like let's say I know AVGL is $10,000 just as a prize pool. If we get something like that, for instance, just I mean that's really something that's often in the future, 2-3 months in the future probably. But let's say we do, almost all of that will go just to straight up playing the players, particularly in the top couple divisions. And then anything else would be to something like a LAN or something like paying casters and streamers to get the games played. There's really no, at least from the admin perspective, there's no monetary gain, as Doc said. There's nothing that we're here to make money. This is in a sense, you could say, you call it almost like a non-profit.
It's a non-profit, essentially.
Well, anyway, I do have to say, though, as a business school student myself and someone who's had a lot of exposure to venture capitalism and whatnot, I would like to say that and if I may summarize it this way, it sounds like you guys are in the startup phase of
Sure.
this business venture right now, and you're just kind of awaiting. I mean, would it be wrong in saying that you guys are maybe awaiting, sort of cash influx or something for one reason or another?
Not really. We're not really waiting for anything. As far as like when it comes to, I guess, the idea or like the purpose of this, I'm not gonna stop setting up things for this community based upon anybody giving me anything to give to the community. Nothing's gonna stop. Like so, the intention is not to have this go so that I can get an investor and then do something with this. The point of this is to keep it going the way it is, and then maybe make minor tweaks as we're going along. But you know, as up to this point, no one has contacted me about said thing as far as like a specific thing. I have heard like giving away skins, things like that, but that's very low monetary, cost. Skins are not really that hard to come by.
Yeah, no, this is another thing I might want to put out there to you guys that you may or may not have considered, and I think you probably have, but I'm pretty sure that if you guys got with Hi-Rez, I'm sure they might be able to allocate a little something something for you guys. So you might want to talk to them about that.
Yeah, it's the success part, right, Will? That's the
Yeah,
key. Is you have to prove it. They say show me the money, right? Do the
yeah.
work, then you get paid. But you got to do the work first.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's all about showing that we can run this tournament. We can get streams run. We can get viewers. We can get interest. We can get games played. And really, the thing is that for any investment, if anything you do, I'm sure you know, Will, is that people don't want people who are investing don't want to find out in a month's time that their investment was for naught, that it's all over,
Right.
it all fell apart, and they're not going to get anything out of it. And so part of it is also the onus on us is that we don't want sponsors until we have, in a sense, proven to them that we can do it, because then there's a higher likelihood that they'll actually give us something of value that we can give to the players.
right.
And last thing, Will, that I'll add, this has brought people together already in a couple different ways that maybe did help someone financially, but it wasn't me. One is there's a whole lot of graphic designers within this league that help out a lot of the different organizations. That's something that I've seen that's pretty common. This league also offers the ability to have free agents join so that players of different skill levels have an area to go to look for people. It's also an area where you can set up scrims, but only scrims with the teams within the league. And so it's starting to kind of like, I feel like there's going to be multiple branches to this that kind of maybe take off in the future. But it's already starting to get traction here and there. I'm starting to see people, join these organizations. These organizations have an access to a coach kind of threshold. As far as there's a couple guys within the league that are coaches, and so it is to a point doing what I originally set it out to do, which is bring people together, and that's cool to see.
Yeah, that's pretty great, and thank you guys for being as transparent as you are, because I know some of these questions might be a little bit difficult to answer, especially in the setting of a podcast, basically, or an interview. So I am actually pretty impressed that you guys are, comfortable with that kind of discussion, because I think what the community needs to understand with something like this is, it ultimately, with stuff like this, it falls on us as viewers to support you guys and make you guys bigger. And that's pretty much the message I gather. So my plug personally, and this is something that I've been very outspoken about the past couple months, support amateur Smite people. It doesn't happen just overnight. Everybody from the players to the admins to even the viewers to an extent who come out here even when there's nobody watching, it's all a labor of love, and we do this because we enjoy it. So the fact is, if we want to grow this and give people better opportunities, it all starts with you, the listener. So that's my plug. Support. I'm just absolutely outspoken about this. Support amateur and pro-am, lower end stuff, because it will get better if you do.
Sure.
So yeah, that's my little plug, and I really like that you guys are bringing a lot of people together here, because the interesting thing that I'm seeing is with all the people who are coming in, they're either looking for teams, they have a place to go. They have a place for scrims. It's pretty interesting, because I think with that, the exposure of it, and people's ability to just come in and have a regular time. And I think that's the really unique thing here, is that, and I was talking with Silent a little bit about this earlier, but I want to touch on this more with you too, is that most teams at this level do not have regular schedules that they can set to do stuff like this. So in that sense, I really want to emphasize that it seems pretty unprecedented that we haven't had that at the community level before.
Sure.
So that's very, very interesting to me that you guys have been able to throw this
think about it
together.
like this, Will. Have you ever played on a summer league kickball or volleyball tournament? Like just with family or friends or anything like that at the park?
Yeah.
So what they do is they send you a schedule and a T-shirt, and generally you have to make it like, I don't know, 2 maybe 3 times a week. That's in a computer version what this is. It's a group of players, maybe on a team that's been playing together for a long time, maybe on the lower divisions, just a group of 5 guys who want to scrim with some people, once or twice a week. It offers different options, but at the same time, like, it's not really too crazy as far as time that we're asking for. And the other thing is we give a lot of flexibility on subs, which is a huge part. So you may have teams who have 7 players on that team because maybe one of those players can make Friday, one of those players can't make Saturday, that type of thing. We leave it open for flexibility so that it can facilitate the, I guess, people's schedules.
Right, and there aren't any roster locks in a sense for these teams. They can move around from player to players and move players around, add subs, remove subs, kind of at will, basically just by filling in a form. Once we get that access to players, we didn't have a reason to give it to them until really basically today or tomorrow. But the other thing is that the subs, even though they aren't necessarily playing on a main roster slot, are still getting the mentorship, maybe you could say. If they're kind of new to the competitive scene, they're probably getting some scrim practice because teams want to practice a bit with their subs if they have to use them. They're getting the contacts of meeting these teams, playing these teams. Oh, I've seen you in that scrim. Oh, I played against you a couple weeks ago. And so even for new players who jump into these sub roles, which many teams are filling them pretty aggressively because they do want to be able to make these times, even though they're pretty well scheduled, it's really forcing these teams to grow past just 5 some odd guys and bring new people in and start growing the community, which is what we wanted from in the first place.
Absolutely. That's what I say. I really, really like what you guys have been doing. So, to hear that you guys have this all really well thought out, just even on the subs and the way you guys handle rosters, it's very, very interesting. And I think it's a different take in a lot of respects. It's not, in some ways, it's not very rigid. And so I think that's really cool, you guys. Now, I have just come up with a couple more specific questions here. So I talked a little bit about the fact that you guys have a lot of different levels, but can you tell me a little bit more about how these levels differentiate? Because there's like a bottom level that as I understand it, was kind of open to people to sign up for.
Sure. Well, I'll take a part of the question, and Silent can take the rest. We had this qualification tournament. This qualification tournament, essentially what it does is it seeds people within the league. And from this seed, the season begins. So if you can kind of imagine like the grand opening, that's what this weekend was for the teams that made the tournament. Now, several teams contacted me and let me know that they could not make the tournament. So they get dropped to the lowest seed for not participating, right? As far as all of them will be tied at the lowest seed. Now, how the league facilitates and still grows and doesn't die is, let's say that we can only facilitate 4 divisions or 3 divisions, right? Not 4 like we would like. That's fine. We may extend a division 2 teams so it's a little bit more balanced. We have flexibility on our end. But what it does is on the bottom division, everyone who just witnessed and saw this on Twitch may be thinking, oh, I know 3 or 4 guys, I could get a team up. You can still join. You just have to now start the season out in the lowest division. It doesn't mean that you're going to be going against terrible players, but it means that those teams are also probably in your neck of the woods, which either they just signed up or they couldn't make the tournament. Now, when you get into the division, the top division, this is where it's most key, because you have to have the competition at the highest level to keep those teams still there together competing. And then it kind of like has a domino effect from each division down to where the stability of this league will be built up from teams entering post this qualification tournament and then through the splits, which is relegations from each division to each division, up and down. This will balance the league. If a team, say in the top division, decides that, hey, we're really good and we're going to just go and start scrimming SPL teams, well, then they can leave and then it backfills up. And so it's a constant moving kind of mass of teams, and it's flexible, although it has rules that govern it. I don't know if that
Yeah,
answers your
something else to add to the divisions, so that just to kind of give, I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but they're respectively 6, 6, 12, and 12 teams. At the moment, I think we have somewhere like 25 teams that we have like pretty much guaranteed to sign up. But new teams can join up until 36. That's where we're capping the league, because just Doc and I think that we just won't be able to deal with more than 36 teams. And if we have more than that, teams will get put on a wait list. But what really kind of what's meant to really drive the league is a whole idea of promotion and relegation, as Doc mentioned. So at the end of the 5 weeks, the splits are very short. And so the idea behind that is that after the 5 weeks of play, the top 2 teams from each of the divisions, besides the Premier League, which is the top division, those 4 teams at the very top will have essentially playoffs for top seeds. But the bottom 2 and the top 2 of every division will play the one below and above it in a best of 3 in order to try to promote up for the teams that are below it. So it allows teams to improve within the division they're in, beat the teams that they're in, and then move up to try to face higher level teams. Well, it also punishes teams at higher levels for maybe not practicing as much, maybe not putting as much effort, maybe changing too many members because they weren't able to get stuff together and end up dropping down. But it allows for the teams to kind of, or the divisions, you could say, to self-balance in a way, rather than us just saying, well, we think that team is best, so we're going to push them up.
Yeah, I see. So, Doc, for clarification, when you're talking about top-level teams here starting to go and scrim circuit and SPL teams, are you saying they're not allowed to do that?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
No, I think he was implying that if they just didn't want to be a part of the league anymore and they were just
if they just want to take off. I mean, the handshake, if you would, if you're talking about a business term, the handshake between me and the teams is, while you're here, be respectful, show up on time, and do what you agree to do. Beyond that, you're going to get stream time, you're going to get scrims, you're going to get community. That's the handshake between me and the captains. And so if they say to me, hey, doctor, we're just going to, we have some scheduling conflicts, we're out, we're going to be kind of moving on to this, I'm not going to like sit there and be like, oh, well, come on, bro, you're in this league. And, I'm just gonna be like, all right, well, I wish you the best of luck and good luck. And so that's what I mean is like, because there's always going to be that. Smite has different phases. When I was in the military, I got deployed. Do you think I played Smite when I was deployed? No. So there were 6 months without it, right? So things happen, and you have to be flexible to the captain so that they'll be flexible with you.
All right, so then in that case, theoretically, if I'm the captain of a top-level team in the PSL, and I want to go and play a circuit team in scrims and that, agrees with the PSL schedule, then I would be free to do that then?
Absolutely. Yes. I guess, I mean, it's kind of a blunt statement, but like we really don't care what these teams do in their scrims. They can scrim the highest level team, they can scrim SPL teams, Challenger Cup, the lowest level teams. They can really do kind of what they want in their free time. Really, the agreement, as Doc was saying, the handshake, if you will, is that you're going to follow the rules that we've kind of laid out. You're going to be super respectful and kind to everyone you play with, and you're gonna play the games you're scheduled to play in order to promote the league and promote the community and also get practice for yourself. And we don't expect these teams to be playing this game out of the goodness of their hearts, if you will. We expect teams to have a self-interest in playing, and that's getting better and getting practice. And if there is down the line money in the league, then or skins or gems or whatever it would be, then playing for that as well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to lead teams to play based on their self-interest, while at the same time saying, hey, if you just want to take off, you can take off, but if you take off, you won't be able to come back until the end of the split.
And let me clarify, because there's two ways that a team will lose its spot. And it's kind of interesting how we did it, because we really wanted to make it fair. And so what we decided to do is, if 4 people on a team want to get rid of a captain, the captains hold the we'll say the license or the lease on the team spot, or a org manager, if so. There's a couple teams with a couple different or a couple orgs with a couple teams in this league. So whoever is in charge of that spot, if the 4 members on that team say, hey, this guy is, not who we want on our team, he's BM, can we, find a different player in place of him, and keep our spot? The answer is yes, because it's the entire team who's staying, besides the person who owns the spot. That means that there's something going on. That handles the whole I'm the captain, so you have to do what I say thing. And then the other side of it is, if a captain has players leave his team, he has to at least maintain 1 player from the original team to have that spot. So that means that you have to have at least 2. So you can't just kick an entire team and retain your spot. That handles the 2, I guess, most extreme ends of how a team breaks up. And it also maintains the ability for players to come in and out, like Silent said, without it affecting, like, maybe a Division 1 team.
What if there's what if there's a what if there's a non-player owner of the team? Does that person retain the spot regardless of who's on the team then, or how does that go?
Yes.
Okay. They've signed we're going under
and
the
teams know that.
Yeah, and this teams they should be under assumption that the spot from the league is technically owned by the team that they're sponsored for. But from our perspective, from Doc and I's perspective, if you kick all 5 members and bring in a whole nother roster, the likelihood of that being a better roster is pretty low, and you're probably going to drop down the next division by the end of the split, because it's always going to be in your best interest from Smite. From I guess this is coming from our personal anecdotal experience, Doc and I and the admins here, but building team synergy is very important, and keeping teams together is very important. And so for all the teams that are constantly switching members, that are constantly moving teams in and out, we find that to be just as detrimental to them as they seem to find it necessary. And so we kind of allow that to happen. The only roster lock, and it was my mistake for not mentioning it before, is we do roster lock at week 4 of every single split, and that will end until the playoffs and relegations finish. And the only reasoning behind that is that we want to avoid super teams from forming, which would mean, we're going to take the best soul laner that we think is in this division, and the best mid laner, and the best et cetera, try to form a super team just to win playoffs. And we'll kick a bunch of the rest of our teammates just for that reason, if you see what we're saying there.
So, okay. Well, then how long is the season? Because you said the splits are 5 weeks, but then there's a process of playoffs and relegations involved here. So how long would one season or instance of this whole split, including everything, how long would that be?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's actually
6 weeks.
You keep it concise. I like that.
And the other thing too. Oh, go ahead, son.
Yeah, the idea is short splits and quick promos and a higher turnover of promotions and relegations allows the league to balance itself more quickly and bring in new teams faster. So if a brand new team that was excellent, that would be in the Premier League, if we were holding a qualifying tournament, joined, it would probably only be about 12 weeks until they are in one of the higher level divisions.
And in between the splits, we'll also have maybe a preseason tournament. We'll do different things. That's where like the community part kind of comes in. In between each season, we may have an arena tournament. We may have a clash tournament. There's going to be some fun that goes along with just the conquest, and that's going to be free to the teams to sign up, and it'll be streamed, and so like there's going to be things on top of the league too that maybe is more applicable to other players. And it's interesting to see kind of the ideas that are coming from the staff and the captains and just from people watching.
That's interesting. So, is there anything you can tell me about the currently qualified teams for the top level division? Anything you want to do to hype them up to listeners at home?
I would say that the there's a couple teams that really surprised me because I didn't actually know who they were, and really came in and showed some really good talent. So I was really happily surprised by that. But I would say that Landslide Take the Throne. Maz Angels I've seen play really well, but they actually got defeated tonight by a team that I wasn't very familiar with. So it's interesting to see that. You have Chicken Thigh Saviors, I think is their name, which is a bunch of players I know. And, you know, with all that, there's also the combine just ended, and I expect to see kind of like or at least I think it ended for this week.
Or is it next week? Who knows at this point?
Anyways, the teams that didn't make it, I'll start to expect to see kind of like them start to be interested maybe in coming and playing in this league. So you may see some of those masters kind of ranked players' names that you may be more affiliated with, but overall, I would say probably those 4 teams that I just listed are probably, from what I've seen just on stream and from playing with or against them, are close enough to compete against the teams trying to get into relegations. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and something else just to add, the craziest master team full of guys like Data Remember and those guys could come in OSATH into the league and they would still join the bottom division just like all the other leagues. We recognize that there's a lot of really great high-level masters teams that are playing in the combine that are competing in Challenger Cup, but we're not going to give preferential treatment to any team in that way. We really care about all the teams that are in it equally. We don't say, okay, well, we think you're really good and we're going to move you up. You have to earn your spot and where you are. And really the way we see it is if you're really that good, it shouldn't take you too long to get up to where you want to be.
Right. Well, you're only limited by how long the system allows for it, and that actually parlays into a big question that has been on my list here. I've been working that as we go. And that is, how will you guys manage like absolute pub stomp teams coming through? Because it sounds to me like what they're going to do is they're going to run through relegations a couple times. But the thing is that there are, 4 tiers to the league, if I understand it correctly? Or are you guys only planning on sponsoring 3 right now?
That will be confirmed later.
Yeah, okay. If we have something crazy like we end a split and there are 20 teams on our wait list or something, like if we just have a huge number of teams join all at once, there's a possibility of us holding another qualification tournament with all the top teams getting something like buys or preferential seating. But that's of course pretty deep in the future. If it's just a couple Masters teams, then yeah, they may have more pub stomp games. But we feel like it's more fair to kind of force them to go through the drudge of winning to get up into the top division rather than just give them special exceptions.
And it's important to note that I listen to the community as well. Well,
for sure.
So if something comes across my attention, it still can be discussed within our rules. Everything is built to be fair, and the way that the final choices are made are by just kind of a decision staff, and we have no like affiliation or really like desire to hurt anybody or any like ulterior motives. So when the decision does come to us at that time, we'll kind of make it then. There's a couple things that still are coming up. This season we just got through our first, or I guess our third major tournament. This tournament being the biggest of all of them, and we practice right with preseason tournaments. That's what we did. We practice. So this season, there's going to be some ups and downs, mostly ups, I believe, just getting the feel from everyone. But if I learn something along the way, there's nothing saying that I can't come to a fair, rational decision about it.
Yeah, I think what Doc's also implying, right, is that if commitment committee joins in to the league and we call a captain meeting that we maybe call once a split or something or twice a split, and all the captains from all the divisions say, look, we don't want the commitment committee to be at the bottom and work their way up. We don't want to have pub stomp games. We'd rather to see them push up. And one of the top premier teams or one of the top champions division teams say, hey, look, we'll give up our spot. We just really think that they're the better team and want to push them up. I mean, we even had an example of during our qualifying tournament where a team would have gotten the win by default, but they asked for the other team to get the win because they had scrims with them before and said, well, they're the better team, they should move on. So I think if we had something like that happen to come to Doc and our attention, there's definitely flexibility in the rules for us to allow to say, okay, well, if that's what the community wants, and that's what the admins agreed to think is also fair for all the teams involved, then we can implement something like that. Is that what we're talking about, Doc?
And I think we're not really answering his question because we're
Oh, are we not? I'm sorry.
But let me officially dodge it for you. Until the problem comes up, I'm more interested in handling our current goals and our current plans. And we had our qualification tournament. That was our goal and our plan to make sure that it went through well. And I think it got received pretty well. Now we have to look at going into the season. We have to look at all the things you're bringing up, Will. And me and Silent have a meeting on Tuesday about it. That's where we're going to look at everything. A lot of information will be released this week to the public, including the captains. Now, one of the things people have asked for is a website. That's coming up, so people will have a flagship area to kind of go for information. But the most important thing is to not try and anticipate problems, but to try and facilitate your program and essentially your business funnel. And right now, commitment committee is not asking to come in, and these teams who have qualified will get their spots in their seeds, and then we're going to go into the season. And there's the option of where like you may be on a really really good team, and maybe you play on a team in this league. It's not like you have to have a specific team to come and join. I mean, you could just maybe be looking for a group of 4 guys that you want to go have fun with on the weekend. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and to limit it to, I guess, tailoring around maybe if a top level teams come or not is not really, in my opinion, like a top priority.
Agreed.
So what you're saying is if Mort Brooklyn comes along and he's like, Mando Warrior missed all his Herc boulders, commitment signing in, your answer is going to be that you guys will kind of cross that bridge when you get there, and more than likely,
sure.
I would hope that you guys have a special relegation plan, in the bug out plan, if you will, if in the event that kind of thing happens. But I understand that right now, especially as you mentioned it with the highs and lows, it looks like you guys are going to focus on what you've got right now in front of you.
And like I scrim them too, by the way. I scrim Mort. So like it's not like I don't know him. So
yeah,
like
he can't hit a boulder for his life, man.
I mean, they hit some things on me. I don't know, but and they're a really good team. So they used to give Take the Throne some scrims, and we took them whenever we got so we could learn from them. Obviously, I know what their caliber is, but I also know Mork's personality and I know who he is as a person. So like that kind of crowd is not familiar to me. Most of those guys know who I am as well.
All right, well that's pretty cool. So that answers my question more or less, and I guess to reiterate to everybody listening in on that long exchange is that basically the PSL is going to kind of cross this bridge as they get there, and there will probably be some solution, because obviously what I think you guys want to avoid is a situation where you've got absolute like silver teams competing against like top teams,
without a doubt,
recently relegated circuit teams, because nobody's going to want to play in or watch that, so you're gonna, I mean, while in certain cases I feel like that's going to be something that you guys will say, yeah, just play it out. if it's pretty blatant, I feel like that'll be something that will be talked about. Anyway.
Well, what about like something like this, Will? Because now you're making me think on my feet, right?
Yeah.
What if someone comes in and talks to me and we'll just say, best team underneath, trying to get into relegations for CC. That best team comes to me and they say, and it's middle of the season, and I say to them, all right, well, when we do relegations, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw you into the teams that are in there for relegations. And if you can be the top team, you can get into that division. That's my solution. I just came up with it. And so, like, there's, to me, there's not really a problem that's going to come up that we can't find some sort of kind of rational, intelligent decision about. It is, for the most part, about getting better overall. And I think that's what all the teams want from this league. And I don't think it does anybody any service to send a group of new smiters against Mort. I mean, how horrendous would that be? That would be the most horrendous thing to watch in the world. And that was part of the old league, too. That was a problem because people were put in divisions. And that's actually where this kind of league stemmed from, of not being divisionalized, because there was such a wide variety in teams that nobody wanted to play against them. It's like, why would we want to waste 20 minutes playing against a team we're going to stomp in 5?
All right, so I want to get the listeners at home a little bit more involved with this part. So basically, I want to try to make these things a little bit more relatable. Now, to people who might be listening and, they watch the stream today, or, they're hearing what you're saying and they're thinking, I might be able to play in this league. Well, would you consider this a more grandiose version of ranked queues for your average Joe? Because I feel like you could almost rename the leagues to be like Master, Diamond, Platinum, Gold.
That was brought up, actually, man.
That was actually brought up. We didn't want their naming system, so we chose the names Premier, Champions, Challenger, and Elite for the main reasoning of that we didn't want to use Master and Diamond because we didn't want teams to feel, oh, well, I'm in the platinum division, which I guess math-wise, I'm in the gold division, therefore I'm a gold player. Well, that's not true. Maybe you have diamond players in there, whatever the level of the overall league is, I don't know. So that was part of the reason why we didn't choose that. But I think you couldn't really call this ranked queues because these teams are joining in. Of course, they're playing as 5. But also they have scheduled games. The games are scheduled. We have the schedule out for teams once we actually just plug them into the list of teams. We'll have that for all the 5 weeks of the split, and we'll reset it every single split. So teams know who they're playing well in advance. There's no kind of real random rhyme or reason to it. And it's very clear that you can schedule games with these teams. Heck, you can scrim these teams ahead of time to try to learn something about them. Maybe, that team, well, we think you're going to be the team to beat in this division, so maybe we won't want to scrim you quite as much. Maybe we don't want to give all of our secrets away. So there's a bunch of strategy and also playing with each other that gets involved in the league that doesn't make this, I'd say, quite like ranked. I guess you could say that this could be a kind of like 5v5 ranked, but it's a little bit more consistent than that.
I want to bring up something that I think that you're hitting on, Will, and what he's hitting on is like ranked. I don't know. I've played more scrims than I've played ranked, and I'm trying to play more ranked so I can work on my individual mechanics, and that's what you should do. But ranked, the difference between like playing a team that's been together and is playing at a high level is it's more about tactics at that point. It's more about conversation. It's more about your comms. It's less about whether you're going to hit abilities because you're at that level. So it's no longer like the same kind of struggles. And I think between the tiers, you're going to see the different struggles of the different teams. But I don't want the viewers to view it as ranked. I want you to view it as teams working on their communication and maybe even their mechanics, because you have to have the mechanics to play on a team that has to have the communication to play in the SPL. That's just what it is, because at that point you're no longer really worried about kind of the minor stuff, which is farming this or doing that. You're worried about, because you can already do it, right? So in this, you're going to start to see the struggles, I think, and you're going to see them differently in each league, and I think you're also going to see the growth, which is of each team, because I've even seen teams improve via this stream over the 2 tournaments into this tournament, and to see them improve in 2 weeks is something that you can't really just take for granted, even if you're talking about a silver team. Anyone who makes any growth, and if they get it from this league, then that means that we're doing something right. And if you're viewing it from like this is what happens in ranked, it's because that's probably where they all met.
Yeah, well, I meant to relate that in a sense that this is open to everybody, but it's really, really try hard. Just straight up.
Well, I could say
Yeah.
competitive is so vastly different from ranked, but yeah, I'd say for most of the teams, it's probably pretty try hard.
I mean, I don't know. I
but
view it as like a total, like, everyone like, bring the beer. We're at softball, we're at the field, and we're drinking beer while we're playing Smite. That's how I kind of view it. But I'm sure for a lot of these teams, this may be some of the only kind of experience they get in front of a stream, maybe in Smite. And maybe, if anything, they can try to build something off of that. Also, this hasn't been brought up. For teams that are interested, this is something that you could possibly put on, like a resume for trying to get a sponsor. If you win the Premier League and the Smite Phoenix League, that's something you can throw on there. And then maybe you win a couple tournaments. I mean, so this opens up like the ability for organizations at an amateur level to maybe start building a resume for themselves.
Yeah, and I think also to add into organizations, I think the biggest fear about organizations, especially when they join a new game, so like a League of Legends team, a sponsor that mainly does League of Legends teams, looking at a game like Smite, is that how do they get into the scene and kind of begin to understand what the differences are and how to manage a Smite team versus a League of Legends team, just for an example, without making a huge investment into a pro team. And I think the Phoenix Smite League could possibly be a way for orgs to make that kind of initial testing investment to get more external investment and interest into Smite as itself, and of course Smite esports.
I'll tell you something funny, Will. Turk, the other owner, when I was playing, and this is how I met him, I played for on a team in his organization. He got me 15% off of gummy bears. I never got the gummy bears, but it was 15% off if I wanted gummy bears.
That's a fun deal. That level,
Yeah, for sure.
Play community tournaments, you get gummy bears for cheaper than everybody.
Yeah, it's just like, you can't really complain because, it's still 15% on gummy bears. It's something.
All right, so as far as non-players are concerned, people such as myself who are kind of basically outside spectators looking in, how can we get involved with the PSL?
Right now, Silent is the lead on admins, so it's his job to facilitate kind of our needs. I know right now, me and him have been discussing recently, we would really like a production member or two, as well as anybody interested in maybe building a resume and casting. You would have to get with Silent. He will do, kind of the VODs. He'll listen to you. He does the interviews for that. But if you're interested in becoming a staff member to just help out, you can just send in an application. It's relatively simple. We have minor tasks that they need, but mostly pretty much all the staff is either related to our production and our casting, or kind of, outside sources. Like, all the admins will maintain the main position, but the staff, they may ask someone to help them with something. That's kind of where they come in.
Just to add on the casuals and streamers, basically it's just like any other application. The only thing is to make like a 10 or 15 or 20-minute video at least of you just solo casting a game. And the kind of logic behind it is if you just record it, upload it to YouTube really easily through OBS, and then just send it to me or through the application process, is really just to, if you can solo cast and you can even do an okay job, you can probably cast with somebody else to help you fill in the time. So that's really what we use, or at least I use, as my test to see whether or not people can, have a good mic and whether they have good not game knowledge and that kind of stuff. And then the way we've been currently doing it is just kind of setting people loose, seeing how they do, trying to find mentors with some of the casters that are a little bit more experienced and more knowledgeable about how to cast, what to do. And we've done the same thing with streamers.
Now, something that has been asked a couple times, Will, and you may be leading into this, is are we ever going to do an EU or Xbox? The answer is, if I find the person and Silent finds the person with me that can fill that role, yes. But we're going to learn from NA PC right now. And then if people in the future are really interested in maybe getting a scene going in one of those regions or on a different console, that's where we may have a large kind of like admin influx, that type of thing. Right now, really, the structure was set up about 2 or 3 weeks before we even release this to people by me and Silent. So a lot of the major lifting has been done within the actual like NAPC scene. But in
Oh
the
yeah.
future, when we do expand, there's definitely that option. No one has really contacted me about it, so it's not really something. Again, I'll approach it when it comes, and I do want to experience this season as a whole, just to see kind of what advice I'll give to those people.
Yeah, and at least on expansion, because we've gotten a bunch of messages, especially about whether or not it's PC only, is that I don't think Doc and I have the time or energy to possibly both do an NA and EU or do multiple different kind of expansions upon this, and so it would definitely have to be, as Doc said, someone to fill the role that we could interview, feel like we could trust, we could maybe teach them, mentor them based on this current league, but also it would definitely have to be 1 or 2 splits down the line to where we felt that we knew what we were doing, we felt confident with what we had here, we'd shown success, we're getting sponsors, and that we really got the ball rolling here. And where we're at now is we started with the qualification tournament. Now it's all about getting this split to work out, working at any kinks we have, possibly adding or subtracting rules based on really what's needed, and trying to polish what I think is already a pretty nice gem, but we just kind of have to get it there.
And me and Silent still do a lot of the major stuff, like I'm still doing the streaming. He still does a lot of the casting. Sometimes I cast, so when my staff can't make it because they're playing within the league, or maybe they have something coming up, we have to cover that. So it's hard to ask somebody to do that. You kind of just either are one of those people who does it or you're not, and that's the type of person that me and Silent are talking about.
All right. Well, yeah, that kind of goes in line with the words of some very smart, very high-level Smite players who have said that if Xbox and EU and other places want to get bigger scenes, it starts with themselves. And especially in the case of Xbox, I feel like there's a distinct need. I mean, EU's in a weird spot, but I won't go there right now. I think Xbox, especially NA, is in a place where they need this kind of league because apparently the Face It League has been difficult for them to deal with. So,
yes, we've heard the horror stories about Face It, yeah.
So yeah, and I don't even mean that in a BM way to face it. I just know that right now, if we're talking about PSL as a business and there's a market share, there is a big opening on Xbox, just clearly. So, I mean, those guys I'm sure would love to have it, but, it starts with you, to all the Xbox players listening in, So, anyway, I've been holding you guys here a while, so I'm going to start wrapping up with a couple questions that I've come up with here. What is your guys' dream goal for the PSL? If you just king for a day, you can make whatever you want happen. Where
King
is
for
this
a
league?
day, yeah.
Where is this league in a few years down the road? Or let's shorten it up because we've had 4 seasons of Smite here. Let's say next year. Where do you see this league?
Doc, you want to answer that one first?
Sure. Okay. Well, I see it in 2 ways. One is it takes off, and it takes off in a couple different areas. Right now, I think it's already taken off on NAPC. But if it does take off in the other platforms, then it can get larger than I guess I really anticipated. But it can still be managed because of the business funnel / organization funnel that we have. In a year, I expect that I will have multiple production people because, people, maybe that's how they want to have an impact, right? They want to be a part of the system as streamers. Maybe they want to be a part of the system as casters. I anticipate as more people get a bigger view on it, those types of people will start to come, and it'll give me more flexibility to honestly, let it run itself, because that's the way that I built it with Silent and with a couple others, is to be self-managed with a minor nudge here or two from Silent. And really, I just want to have a consistent outlet to our amateur scene. And if I can do that while also sitting back with a beer and watching it, that's the dream for me.
Yeah, I have to pretty much say my dream is along the same lines as to king for a day, is that everything works out. We fill up the league fully, we get all the teams in, everything works smoothly, we get all the rules in, we get plenty of staff and admin to make it run right, division leaders do their job, captains are friendly, do their job, we get sponsors, so more teams come, more good teams come in, and then all I really have to do is sit back with a martini in my hand, or a beer, or some kind of over 21 alcoholic beverage,
Yeah.
and
punch.
and with my grape juice, and and just kind of watch it run, and I guess enjoy the fruits of my labor, I guess you could say.
I just want to say, Silent, when you get the option between vodka and whiskey, you choose whiskey every time, man.
I'm not. I'm not a whiskey guy. I'm sorry, there, sir.
Yeah, that's why you have no chest hair, Silent.
Shots.
You have that.
I have only 2 strands. It's because
I have
3 shots of whiskey, and I was like, "Oh, this is so gross."
What is it? What is it that Popeye? What is it, the Popeye thing where he gets the muscles? Except this time you take the spinach and you get the chest hairs instead.
Exactly.
All right. So what do you have to say to all the Joe Schmoes out there? Who are maybe like, we're silver gold season 3, and they're like, why should I join? What do you have to say to them?
So I very recently started and was given the chance to play against people who I think are without a doubt better than me. And that's kind of hard for some people. But what I would say is, if you come in with kind of an open mind about it, the amount that you have here to learn could turn that silver gold into masters, because you never stop learning. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people that maybe you have a person in division, the top division, and he's a mid laner and he runs a certain build, and you shoot him a message, "Hey man, why do you run that build? What are you trying to get there?" You've already grown as a player. So to the Joe Schmoes, it offers you growth as long as you come in without the idea that you're going to be the best. If you come in with that idea, then it may leave you with a little bit of an aftertaste in your mouth, because there are some dang good teams in here. So come in here with an open kind of mind about your own personal skill level. Don't associate that with ranked, because what the skills you're going to be learning here is 5 versus 5, not one man queuing with you in ranked. That's a whole different game, and this offers just that experience, growth, and it also puts you maybe on the stream and you can watch yourself play. Some people don't have the time to go back and backslash replay their games like a lot of us do, but maybe that's all you want. You just want to be on TV, mom. That's really all I got right there for that.
I guess my response would be, Joe, listen to me here. When I first started this game, I was garbage. Okay. Yes. I had never played a MOBA before, barely played video games before, really just played a couple shooters with some friends casually. Never really had gotten really good at anything. Found Smite, loved it. Decided I want to play on teams. I was Silver 5, Season 0, preseason. Got utterly smashed. My communication was awful. I wasn't a good team player. Nobody liked me. 2 years after playing on teams, I was playing on Diamond Master levels teams, coaching teams, had tons of contacts, and the biggest times I've ever improved in Smite was being on teams, because you get to play at a high level. You get to grow all the skills you need, your communication, your mechanics. You get to have people that, hey, they call you out, that aren't just in rank some other mean person in ranked flaming you. Why did you build that on that god? What? What?
are
You
the
didn't get
worst.
Hydras on Thanatos? What are you doing, sir?
Right.
But rather than just getting flamed, your team can pull back. You can have someone watch. You can look at the VOD and say, hey, look, I don't know why you built that. Do you have a reason behind you building that? And it gives you a way to internalize, gives you a way to respond to criticism, but it also gives you a way to grow outside of just playing with other random people you don't know in ranked. So if there's a way that you want to get better, playing 5v5 competitive is the fastest way to get good at this game. No doubt about it.
And this is fun. We set it up for you. So you just got to show up. That's probably the greatest thing is you only have to do one thing, and that's show up.
I'd like to see that bottom division get filled up just to watch those games at least once or twice. Like you feature one and do a spin-off of Bronze League Bravehearts. Like that would probably be a fun little thing. I mean, maybe not the best thing to do regularly because we don't want to hurt egos too hard, people down in the lower levels. But still, I know personally, just as somebody who likes amateurs a lot, that would be funny for me to see.
Getting streamed is so important, man. I think we streamed a game in the old league. It was like a few months ago, and we were seating one of the casting one of the bottom level teams, excuse me. And one of the teams, they had 5 players who had never been streamed before, and another team that only 1 out of the 5 had been streamed before. And they talked to me before the game, and they were terrified. They were so terrified. And I'll tell you right now, 3 of those people are on a team that we casted on the first day of this qualification tournament, and they didn't sweat one bit when we told them that they were getting casted.
Gives you that experience, and you know what I'm talking about, Will. Not everyone gets casted in the Face It tourney.
I don't think anybody gets streamed unless the players stream.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They stopped doing that, didn't they? What is it? The other Valhalla? Is that the one that streams?
Yeah, Smite Central and the Team Eager Friday Night Smite tournaments are the ones that streams. The Combine, as far as I know, doesn't get any coverage, which is really weird.
That's right.
Yeah, and I know in season 2 there's so many tournaments, community tournaments. This league I don't think was needed, especially early season 2 in a sense, because Hi-Rez was giving out gems like crazy to basically anybody who wanted to hold a tournament. And I mean, a lot of people were abusing that and abusing the rules, and that's why they really limited down to very few, mainly just Smite Central, honestly, as far as community tournaments. And I think this league, especially throughout all of season 3 and now beginning season 4, tries to fill that void that was left there when Hi-Rez said, "Okay, no more people cheating the rules. We're only giving out gems to people who we can guarantee are legitimate and holding legitimate tournaments."
And I want to say one last thing before I go, because I don't think I've ever thanked them before. But Discord has allowed for this league to essentially be run. Discord changed the kind of the game on Smite, I think, because of all the things that it makes available to a whole community of people. You could have never done this on some of the other platforms. We essentially run all the information tracking through this Discord, and we will have a website. Of course you can. And so the ability to use this Discord in that way, I think, is a big difference from season 2, like Silent was talking about, because a lot of that was run by websites and stuff like this. This is a lot of word of mouth, and as people get interested, they'll be added to this Discord, and they still have the same streamline of information, which is really helpful.
All right, so just as a disclaimer there, I did ask a quick question about whether Doc could take one last question, so that's why he interjected in the middle of his statement, so you might be confused. I was just hoping you would reply silently, but that's cool. I just wanted to. This is more a question for you because I know Silent could probably say something to this, but this is something I would be more interested to hear what you have to say coming from the business side of this, and that is, what do you have to say to potential sponsors who might be listening?
Well, the first thing that we would discuss is kind of what your intention is for yourself. You would have a conversation with me and another gentleman, and I would give you my utmost honesty of what we have, and kind of go over what we can offer as far as viewership, and as far as kind of like the angle of the teams, that type of thing, and what really kind of, again, your intention is, right? So for that, it's kind of a behind closed doors thing, because you have to always have those conversations in that fashion, just out of respect. But it would be kind of an open door. I don't have really anything to not show anybody, as far as there's nothing I'm really keeping a secret right now. And I would be willing to show you everything we got, as far as the Twitch, the YouTube, all that type of thing, and that's kind of where you would get the, I guess, reward for your sponsorship, is the view on that. But we would talk about that, and it would be something that maybe you have a couple things on your end that you want me to review.
All right, thank you very much, Doc, and I'll let you head on out on your way, and I'll let Silent field the last 2 questions we got if you got to go, man. So
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it, Will. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you guys, and it's been great talking. So I'll see you around, Doc, and Silent.
All right, what you got for me, Will?
2 last questions, and they're actually kind of gimmies. So here goes nothing.
Oh, yeah.
What do you have to say to Hi-Rez about this tournament? If you could just spend the day with Hindu Man, what would you tell him about this tournament?
Oh, with Hindu. Well, I like Hindu Man. Hindu Man's a great guy. Oh well, I guess this is to Hindu Man. I guess you've called him out now. Well, there's no escape. There's no backtracking here now. I'm just giving you a hard time. If I had anything to say at Hi-Rez, it would really just be, look, we're trying to make a community, trying to grow esports, and we just really hope that you guys, through Doc, of course, through Doc and Turk, would find some way to push this league and promote it and promote your lower level esports, because really the pros that we have now aren't going to play forever as pros. I mean, they who knows how long they'll play, but there has to be new blood, and I think Hi-Rez really needs to, from a community end, really push, I think, growing their lower level, I guess you could call it, esports and semi-pro teams, amateur level teams. And I think this is a good outlet for them to do it. And I would say, hey, if they have a better idea, if they have a better way to grow their esports that's better than us, do it. Hey, if you have a better idea, do it. But I think we need more of what we're at least attempting to provide to the esports of Smite. Did that answer your question there, Will?
Yeah, that was, I'd say so. And finally, do you have any final comments or thoughts?
Well, that's vague.
Yeah.
My final thoughts are just really, I guess you could say, look, join the league if you're interested in growing as a team, if you're interested in playing with some friends, if you're interested in the competition. Sign up for the league, join the league, play in the league. The commitment level is relatively low. You'll be treated just as fairly as the highest level teams as with the lowest level teams. And we are here for the captains, in a sense. Like, we're the admins. We make the decisions. We do disciplinary action. We have to punish players if we absolutely have to. We hadn't really had to do that really yet, and we hope that we don't really have to do that much at all. But it's a reality, and so in a sense, we aren't at the same level of captains, but we are here for the captains, when the teams that make up the captains, that captains own that spot, because captains function as people who we talk to. So maybe I'm kind of giving a vague answer, but it's really just, if you are interested in playing, come on out and play. We have slots open. If we run out of slots, we'll put you on the wait list, and the moment a slot opens, you'll be put in.
All right, well, thanks so much for that, Silent, and just everybody listening at home here, just search up Phoenix Smite League on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can find them all on there, and there's a website in the works, and we're currently working on actually adding a wiki page for the league on the esports wiki, so look out for that. And to everybody at home, and to Silent, and to the PSL, and to Doc, I want to say thank you to all you guys for your time. Thanks for listening, and it's been a real good interview. I think we got about 25 questions in, somewhere in that ballpark.
Jeez.
I want to say we did a lot. Like, the ones I wrote
Someone's
down were
counting.
17. Yeah, I've been writing it down. But anyway, with that, I'll sign off the cast. But thanks everybody for listening.